Apart from this, I said, and back live with Captain Green.
So here is your grid for the main race. Nicky Katzberg, it is, who's on pole position, ahead of Norby Michelis. Katzberg, some controversy about his pole lap. He was under investigation yesterday, but the officials deemed him not to have gained an advantage at the last corner. Tiago Montero, our championship leader, heads up the second row, ahead of Esteban Guerri, buoyed off the fact he's just had a podium in race one. Ted Bjork and Nesta Girolami are on the third row. Girolami with issues on the way to the grid. Then it's Mehdi Banani and Tom Chilton ahead of Rio Mishigami and Jan Erlache. So, who's your pick from the midfield to head towards the front here, Richard?
I think the top six particularly are going to be very, very closely fought, to be honest, but not dodging the question. I think Katzberg is probably in the pound seats to win this race if he gets away cleanly. I think Michelis will be very, very fired up from not having a good race in race one, with taken out by his teammates. I expect him to be very, very fired up, and I also think that Guerrieri is looking for a second podium, so it'll be interesting to see if he can get something out of race two.
It'll be interesting to see what happens to Nesta Girolami, and when we get an update in terms of the conditions of his Volvo, we'll let you know. Guerrieri's going to be fired up on the second row, but Nicky Katzberg it is who will head the field away. His first pole position of 2017. And ahead of Norby Michelis, who's been the man at the moment in qualifying the last couple of rounds. 2 poles on the bounce prior to Argentina.
Yeah, and they've been very quick at different circuits as well. Circuits that aren't necessarily the same. This is one guy on our screens now, Rob Huff. He's really struggled this weekend. Some issues in qualifying, but made a sort of decent run of race one and climbed up to P7. Obviously, he's helped out a little bit there by the retirements ahead of him, but had a very quiet race, but up into solid points for the former world champion.
There is Tom Coronel's car, Chevrolet Cruze. And Raul Motorsport, you touched on this yesterday, doing a great job just to get this car to Mexico.
Really big accident.
Argentina.
Really big accident for Tom at the last time out at the race in Portugal. He had a very odd accident. He had a wheel failure, but managed to go off at a part of the circuit you wouldn't expect, and managed to hit one of the support vehicles, which was pretty solid. It was actually an ambulance. So, yeah, the Raul Motorsport guys have done an amazing job to get that car prepared and shipped to Argentina in time for this race. So, really, really performed a miracle. And Tom had a slightly quiet race in race one, but did a good job. John Philippi, he had a decent race in race one, actually. still very young, not a huge amount of experience, but he's starting to really sort of catch up with his teammates in the Sebastian Loeb Motorsport team.
Yeah, his countryman Jan Erlache, there he is aboard the Lada Vesta. They line up on separate rows. Jean-Philippe heading up the 6th row. Heading up the 5th row ahead of Erlache is Ryo Mishigami, who kind of had, well, his first race was a bit of a struggle starting from the back of the grid after that engine change. Yeah,
so to add insult to injury, after the engine change, he then also had an electrical problem, which is what hampered the Honda team in Mach 3 yesterday. So we're hearing that that was a solenoid issue, which affected the turbocharging of the car. So yeah, he's had a pretty rough weekend, really, but had a solid race, scrapping with Tom Coronel in race 1. So it'll be interesting to see if he can get his weekend back on track and score some valuable points for Honda in the Manufacturers' Championship in this 2nd race.
It's the Argentine winter here. You can see it's not sunny by any stretch of the imagination. It's not as foggy as it was yesterday, though. Not foggy at all, but yesterday really was foggy when the day started. But you can see here, people aren't warm. Mechanics with woolly hats here at Sebastian Loeb Racing. And we heard an interview off tape, Tom Chilton talking after that first race about his penalty, and he's not a happy bunny.
No, he's not a happy bunny, but as I alluded earlier, at the end of the day, he wouldn't have been able to pass in that corner had it not been for making contact.
Look bad. I know if the tyres weren't there, I would have taken all the grass up the inside and made that stick to the outside on the top of the curb, but the tyres were there, so I couldn't.
You knew the tyres were there. They've been there all weekend.
I know. Old habits die hard. I just knew if they weren't there, I would have done it easily.
Yeah, I think Tom now accepts that that was his fault. Now he's probably seen a bit of onboard and agrees that it looks bad. You know, at the end of the day, his engineer's right to point out to him those tyres have been there. Look, Tom didn't mean to make contact. He was trying to make a switchback manoeuvre to get back to the inside and basically ran out of room. But of course, Erlache was entitled to be there. They made contact. The stewards deemed that he gained an unfair advantage by taking that position, and probably rightly awarded him a time penalty. Wasn't anything intentional. There's no malice. There's no drive-through penalty required, but unfortunately very costly 5-second penalty when you win the race on the road. So yeah, unfortunately for Tom, no intent, but unfortunately probably deserved that, Tom.
Typical engineers comment that. As a driver, you can always rely on your engineer to bring any excuse that you have crashing down to the floor. And deliver with no emotion, just totally stone cold. The tyres have been there all weekend. A
lot of people forget that the engineers want to win just as much as the drivers. So yeah, he'll be really hurting Dave Sylvester there to Nick, sorry, to get that win. They put a huge amount of work into this, so he'll be just as disappointed as Tom. But obviously, it's beyond his control. So yeah, but these guys, they'll now be 5 minutes out from the green flag lap, and they'll be focusing on this upcoming race.
Moving into the Volvos that are on the 3rd row, Nesta Girolami and Ted Bjork.
They were probably the happiest team yesterday, having scored the overall pole position and closed up on Honda, and probably looked the fastest. But double DNF and Ted Bjork making some mistakes in that race and giving away some valuable points. They're kind of on the back foot, but Katzberg starting from pole in this race with Ted Bjork starting on the 3rd row. They have everything at their disposal to make this a good, solid weekend. And who knows, maybe even come away leading the World Championship.
So some entertainment from the local parts of Argentina here. That's the best bit about going away racing, isn't it? Trying to get a flavour of the local culture and what comes naturally to that part of the world.
This part of Argentina as well is quite remote. It's up in the northwest of the country. It's a good sort of 3-hour internal flight from Buenos Aires, and it has a very unique sort of desert culture up there in that part of Argentina. Although I think the local delicacy is goat, actually. So yeah, sadly no steaks in that part of Argentina because it's in the desert. But
did you sample goat when you went there?
Yes, I have. Yes, spit roasted goat, very tasty, washed down with some nice Malbec from Patagonia. So yeah, the best Malbec you'll drink for the equivalent of €2 is pretty good to wash down your goat.
Absolutely. So yeah, I can't imagine eating goat, but I can imagine drinking Malbec. Right, 3 minutes to go to the start of this main race. There is your poleman, Nicky Katzberg, his first pole position of 2017. Can he convert the win into a victory, and will Honda leave Argentina on the top step of the podium? Only time will tell. 13 laps this main race. And I think it'll be more gloves off than the first affair.
Katzberg really needs a result from this as well. That's the other thing. Having retired from the first race, but starting this race from pole position, he really needs to try and get something out of this weekend. As with Michelitz, also didn't score in the first race. So the front row is probably going to be very, very punchy.
So it is Nicky Katzberg's Volvo ahead of Norby Michelit's Honda. Then it's the second of the Hondas, Thiago Montero, Esteban Guerri in the Chevrolet Cruze. Ted Bjork heads up row 3 in the Volvo ahead of his teammate Nesta Girolami, also in the S60. Mehdi Banani in the Citroen, the first of the Citroens on the 4th row, ahead of his teammate Tom Chilton, also a Sebastian Loeb Racing driver. Ryo Mishigami is 9th in his Honda, ahead of race 1 winner Lachey in 10th. Jean-Philippe is 11th in his Citroen, ahead of Tom Coronel in his Chevrolet Cruze. Rob Huff down in 13th, not where he's used to be. He's ahead of Daniel Nagy and Zolt Szabo in the 2 Honda Civic Zengo Motorsport machines. Kevin Gleeson rounding out the back of the grid.
Okay, mate, some message from about Girolami. He's got gearbox problems, so he might stall on the grid, you understand? So be careful of him at the start.
Just what you want to hear if you're Lachey. Yeah, Dave Scott, his race engineer, giving him some vital information there, which just make him alert to something as we go to a commercial break.
Welcome back to the Saquito Termas de Rio Honda circuit here in Argentina, about 1,800 kilometers north of the capital, Buenos Aires. Main race about to get underway. Nicky Katzberg needs a result now more than ever. If you're his engineer, do you tell him that? Or does he know?
I think he knows. I think he knows. And to be honest, Nicky Katzberg's one of those drivers that is a little bit probably on the wilder end of the spectrum. So therefore, he's probably someone you need to probably try and rein back and make sure they focus as opposed to sort of winding up. And all drivers need different psychology, but I'd say that Nicky Katzberg is one of those drivers that needs the reins slightly more.
There is your World Touring Car Trophy points. Chilton a couple behind.
Chilton would be leading that had he won the race, maybe. Yeah, he would be, because obviously he finished behind a couple of rivals there in that with the podium.
So, formation lap all but complete here in Argentina for round 12 of 20 in this 2017 World Touring Car Championship. Engineers busy probably looking through data from the...
Ron Hartfeld there just exited the shot on the right. He's somebody who was one of the masterminds at the Chevrolet World Touring Car team when they were a works outfit, and that's somebody that Volvo have brought in this year to bolster their technical department, their understanding of the championship, and the results are really starting to come.
So Katzberg lines up to the left of his grid spot, and Norby Michelis just behind his grid box. All 16 cars on the grid, and again we wait the green flag. There is the safety car and the medical car at the back. Green flag waves. Now look at the red lights at the top of your screen. They are on, and it's a textbook hold, and Nicky Katzberg it is who gets away, and it looks as though further back there's a bit of bumping and bustling, and Chilton's on the grass, contact with Guerri, but the two Hondas slot in behind Nicky Katzberg, so the Volvo leads, and it's Norby Michelis and Thiago Montero side by side down to the corner that they had contact on the first lap in the opening race. Thiago Montero can't get around the outside, slots in behind his teammate Norby Michelis. We're on board with the championship leader.
Yeah, we are indeed. That was all very neat and tidy. It had some potential to go wrong with two cars on the grass into turn one. But, of course, from a World Championship points point of view, Honda and Volvo are kind of in reverse at the moment. And that's Guerrieri.
Yeah, fighting with Nesta Girolami by the looks of things, are going around the outside. Girolami trying to roll off the brake. Guerri goes wide. And Mehdi Benani now trying to look at the two Argentines. So here they are on board with Esteban Guerri, and there is Nesta Girolami. No way through. Nicky Katzberg it is out front, leading from Norby Michelis, Thiago Montero, Ted Bjork, Nesta Girolami, Guerri ahead of Mehdi Benani. Tom Chilton dropped back at the start behind his teammate.
That mistake that Girolami made put him under pressure, and Guerrieri's gone through. That was a big error from Girolami as he came to the top of the crest there, scrubbed off all the speed with that slide, which allowed his fellow countryman through.
Locking the rear wheel into the last corner. Penultimate corner, I should say. Now they power through the last corner onto the start and finish straight, and that's just what Nicky Katzberg would have hoped in his pre-race ambitions.
Yeah, and that slide from Girolami sort of allowed the top four to sort of get away, really, at the end of the opening lap.
Now, Norby Michelis has been really quick at times this weekend, but as you said, Richard, fighting a stomach bug, and that could play havoc with his fitness. Didn't really go very far in the first race, yeah. So he'll be fresher than he could have been. Apparently
didn't sleep well last night at all, and I think, yeah, he's been struggling with illness all weekend, but from what we've heard, got a little bit worse last night. So, yeah, he's just been hydrating himself and resting up as much as he can.
Zolzabo just getting on the grass in his Zengo Motorsport Honda Civic. Then that allows Kevin Gleason through. So the American in for the rest of the season in that second RC Motorsport car. Just slotting in between the two Zengo Motorsport Hondas. RC Motorsport getting their first World Touring Car win in the first race, as well as Erlaché, the Frenchman who's aboard that Lada Vesta. So this is going to be a replay of Nesta Girolami going around, and there's a bit of contact, I think, with Tom Chilton trying the same thing, and that's quite robust, but borderline.
Yeah, a very poor start from Guerrieri, which caused the concertina of those cars making a trip to the grass, and then Esteban having to be very, very aggressive into turn one to get that place back from Mehdi Banani.
Yeah, Tom Chilton there just trying to follow Nesta Girolami around. You could see Guerrieri just moving around. I'm going to guess what he's going to say.
Try my best. Girolami hit me quite hard onto the grass, damaged my front left a bit. I'll try my best.
It's Guerrieri, but I know he knows who he means. He just got the names muddled up.
Sounds like he's perhaps picked up a little bit of damage, and that's why the car's not feeling perhaps quite as it should. So just communicating that to his engineer that perhaps his lap times won't be what they should be.
Norby Michelis now closing up to the back of race leader Nicky Katzberg. Thiago Montero going with him. There is the damaged Sebastian Loeb Citroen Alese of Tom Chilton.
With race one winner Aleshe behind him, but Rob Huff also looking quite racy. He's got past Tom Coronel early stages of this race.
Yeah, Rob Huff will be itching for a good performance here. It hasn't gone his way at all this weekend, has it? And a little bit of contact between Erlaché and the Brit.
Of course, Rob Huff's lack of pace is evident because he's been behind other Citroens on the grid. But of course, the Citroen here with the success weight formula of the series is carrying 80 kilos, which is really holding those cars back here. But of course, like I said, that does not explain why he's been behind the other Citroen runners. He has been struggling for pace.
So the all-Incal squad, the Munich Motorsport team running that Citroen Alese. And at the beginning of the year, when he was announced in a Citroen, you really felt that he would be a title favourite. Finds himself in 7th place in the points. Still not out of it, but needs to find some form as we move into the second half of the season. Or the final third, I should say. On board with Norby Michelis. And the gap just opening up again, even though he had the fastest lap last time around. 4 of 13 laps completed.
Mighty on the brakes there, absolutely mighty on the brakes. And like I said, at the moment, sort of in championship points order, Volvo and Honda have their teams in the wrong. We get some team radio now from Tapiok.
To Guerrieri behind, he's 1.7. He was 1/10 quicker than you in the last lap, so he's not gaining very much. You lost 0.7 to Monteiro in front on the last lap. Target lap time is now 1:43.7. 1:43.7.
And the target lap time there, these drivers have to look after tyres and brakes and manage the performance of the car for the whole race. So therefore, quite often we have to get drivers to drive to a lap time, which is the best for the race duration. Race one winner Aleshe behind him, but Rob Huff also looking quite racy. He's got past Tom Coronel early stages of this race.
Yeah, Rob Huff will be itching for a good performance here. It hasn't gone his way at all this weekend, has it? And a little bit of contact between Erlaché and the Brit.
course, Rob Huff's lack of pace is evident because he's been behind other Citroens on the grid. But of course, the Citroen here with the success weight formula of the series is carrying 80 kilos, which is really holding those cars back here. But of course, like I said, that does not explain why he's been behind the other Citroen runners. He has been struggling for pace.
So the all-Inkle squad, the Munich Motorsport team running that Citroen LS8. And at the beginning of the year, when he was announced in a Citroen, you really felt that he would be a title favourite. Finds himself in 7th place in the points. Still not out of it, but needs to find some form as we move into the second half of the season. Or the final third, I should say. On board with Norby Michelis. And the gap just opening up again, even though he had the fastest lap last time around. 4 of 13 laps completed.
Mighty on the brakes there, absolutely mighty on the brakes. And like I said, at the moment, sort of in championship points order, Volvo and Honda have their teams in the wrong. We get some team radio now from Tapiok.
To Giuliani behind, he's 1.7. He was 1/10 quicker than you in the last lap, so he's not gaining very much. You lost 0.7 to Monteiro in front on the last lap. Target lap time is now 1:43.7. 1:43.7.
And the target lap time there, these drivers have to look after tyres and brakes and manage the performance of the car for the whole race. So therefore, quite often we have to get drivers to drive to a lap time, which is the best for the race duration.
On board with Zolzabo, the battle for 14th. Daniel Nagy is leading that train, and there is Kevin Gleeson, the American, in the middle of this Zengo Motorsport sandwich.
Yeah, all 3 of these drivers have never been to this circuit before, and but they're certainly having a good battle between themselves here.
Zolzabo aggressively coming to the pit wall there on the exit of the final corner. And the Zengo Motorsport crew looking on. Zolzabo in for this weekend, his first World Touring Car weekend. He is a European Touring Car runner, a youngster who has impressed in that, and so been given the role or the opportunity to step up to the main class. They've just dropped off the back of the main peloton, if you like. So it is Nicky Katzberg who leads from Norby Michelis. Thiago Monteiro, the second of the Hondas, third. Ted Bjork is 4th, the second of the Volvos. Esteban Guerri, the Argentine, 5th. Mehdi Banani up to 6th. Nesta Girolami down to 7th now. And Tom Chilton still in 8th, ahead of Erlache. So Kevin Gleeson has found a way past Daniel Nagy. He inherits 14th place.
Yeah, and while we're watching this battle at the back of the grid, Katzberg is saying some commanding lap times. Fastest lap of the race on a 1:43.4, and he's pulling away at a 10th or so per lap from Michelin. So at this stage of the race, he's certainly got the pace.
So approaching the halfway stage of the race.
Yeah, I think we could probably do with seeing what's at the front of the race now as we switch back to Monteiro's onboard. Like I said, he could probably do with being ahead of his teammate come the end of this race for points in the World Championship lead. But of course, probably no team orders within Honda at this mid-stage of the season.
Nesta Girolami has just been passed by Mehdi Banani, who's ahead of him now.
Okay, Nesta, we need to try to finish the race to score some points for the manufacturer championship placing.
Clearly all is not well, we assume, as he's struggling for pace at this time. He had some technical issues in the first race, so all electrical gremlins, but the team needs some valuable points in the manufacturer's title races. There's only 10 points at the moment between Honda and Volvo.
Just motivating their charger there, because it'll be a sinking feeling for Girolami. He hasn't looked terribly pleased with how things have gone this weekend. Obviously, coming to your home round, you have high hopes and expectations. A quick car, but he's not been with the best of luck and has been outclassed and outpaced by his teammates at this stage.
Yeah, and this is a big win for Katzberg if he can take this victory, because didn't score any points, but coming into the weekend he was literally only 10 points off Montero's championship lead in third. So if anybody needs a win, it is Katzberg, who is currently leading this race, setting a very, very commanding pace. Again, sort of the class of the field in terms of lap time again that time around. But you have to say, at this point of the race, Tom, he's not exactly breaking away from the Honda duo of Mikulits and Montero.
No, he's one mistake away from just falling into the clutches of the Hondas, isn't he? One win to his name already in 2017, Nick Katzberg. That was a couple of weekends ago in Germany, the Nürburgring. Now Rob Huff getting racy with Erlaché.
Yeah, some big switches of lines there as he tries to find a way through. I mean, this is great. I mean, you know, Rob Huff is one of the most successful drivers in WTCC history. He's won a huge amount of races, and Erlaché has one win to his name as of about half an hour ago. So it's a great, exciting battle to watch a veteran like Rob Huff against this youngster.
On board with Tom Chilton. This is how they finished on the road in the first race. Chilton demoted Erlaché into the limelight with the win.
It's hard on my tyres. My front lift is so far out, it's making it understeer like a pig.
So Tom just bemoaning some understeer there, courtesy of that damage at the beginning. There's not much the team can do about it now. And this is disaster for Katzberg.
Katzberg, race leader.
Nicky Katzberg, what's gone on here?
Puncture again, is that? Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Left front puncture.
Again, so that cannot just be bad luck.
No, that is a big surprise. We have seen tyre failures before with the wrong pressures, or sorry, not the wrong pressures, but very low pressures, and high cambers can often lead to a tyre failure. You'd think they would have perhaps backed off those settings for race 2, given the puncture, but that has just cost Katzberg a very, very likely win in the World Touring Car Championship.
And that's nowhere near well, full race distance. So it's either a technical setting, or he's cutting a curve somewhere that other people aren't. You know, where sometimes if you cut too much as you come back from the grass to the curve, it just nicks the tyre. But nevertheless,
it could be, but we haven't seen that the rest of the weekend. I think this circuit has become more and more bumpy, and as we see oscillations in the tyre sidewall, sometimes that can stress the tyre cords, and that's where a failure can happen. Generally, the actual wear happens in the early part of the race when the tyre pressures are low, but then it causes a failure mode later on in the race.
fascinating stuff. Nicky Katzberg, our race leader, is out with a left front tyre failure. And Richard giving us a really good insight as to why that may be. And sometimes they do say, and you've heard it on the radio, stay off the curbs at the beginning when the tyres are cool, when the temperature's not there, and that is to protect those failures later on in the race, is it?
Yeah, basically it sort of frets the cords. It's almost like looking at some very taut string, and those cords get frayed, and then they cause a failure later on in the race when there's much more energy in the tyre. But yeah, it's I mean, it's unbelievable that Katzberg's just lost an almost certain 25 points, and really now he's going to fall a long way behind Bjorkan Montero, leaving Argentina, who's gone from being right in the World Championship race to probably becoming a bit of a rank outsider. Yeah, that's very, very unfortunate for the Dutchman.
2 left front tyre failures for Nicky Katzberg, and well, that is the end of his race effectively, and that allows Norby Michelis up into top spot, Thiago Montero into second, and Ted Bjork, the second of the Volvos after Katzberg, now the lead Volvo, and there he is, the front trio heading into turn 5. Esteban Guerri all alone. There is Mehdi Benani and Nesta Girolami, so they're spread out really. 4th, 5th and 6th fairly spread out. Then you've got this fascinating battle between Tom Chilton, Erlaché and Rob Huff, just giving Erlaché a little bit of a tap there in the middle of the corner.
I think the other big sort of worry now for the Volvo pit wall will be that if Ted Bjork has very similar setup to Katzberg, they're going to be slightly concerned about his front tyres and whether he could be looking at potentially a tyre failure in the closing stages of this race. So that will be giving them some worry, and he'll probably been instructed on the radio, and he'll be thinking of every little tiny vibration he can hear could be the beginnings of a tyre failure. So yeah, he's going to have a very nervous 3 final laps of this World Touring Car race.
Well, Norby Michelis, who's not feeling very well, he's had a torrid weekend in terms of his health, didn't sleep well last night, stomach bug, and now he finds himself leading this main race. He won the main race last time out in Portugal, and he finds himself ahead of his teammate here, Tiago Monteiro, who's in turn ahead of Ted Bjork. Now this will be interesting for the championship because Michelis will move. Will he move ahead of Nicky Katzberg? I can't do my maths on air, but
yes, he will. Yes, he will, because Katzberg also didn't score any points in the first race. Yeah, we've still got a little bit to go, and Norby's had a few lockups the last few laps as well. He's still obviously pushing very, very hard to try and secure this win.
Now we go back to the Zengo Motorsport, Jules. So Zolt Szabo just getting frustrated with Daniel Nagy. This is the battle for 14th and 15th.
Yeah, some internal politics within that team, but yeah, they're not points-paying positions at the moment, so probably no harm done.
Erlaché still ahead of the all-Inkle car, the Chevrolet LSA of Citroën LSA of Rob Huff. There he is ahead, or just behind Erlaché's Lada Vesta.
Well, one thing we have learned today is that Erlaché is very adept at handling pressure. That's a former world champion behind him in his mirrors, and he's not given him a single inch in this race. Of course, Rob's struggling with 80 kilos of success ballast, as are all the Citroens. But yeah, he's not opened the door for him yet in the 11 laps so far of this race.
With the success ballast, what I find interesting is if you have a runaway car at the front, then everyone gets penalised. So say Rob Huff, who's not having a particularly good time of it, is you know, penalised for other teams' successes. Now I understand if you've got a factory squad and 3 drivers, but nevertheless, if one of them loses points, it's difficult for them to then catch up. Nesta Girolami limping home.
Corner 5 braking, another vibration in the bonnet. I think was the gearbox. But please mark in your notes.
So Nesta Girolami.
You are half a second faster than Benani, and we are one of the fastest of the race, actually. Keep pushing, please.
Oh, I thought Girolami was going to stick his nose up the inside. He's caught Mehdi Benani, so I said limping home. He thinks he's limping home, but compared to the rest and the wider view, he's not in a bad position.
Yeah, last time around set his best time personally for Sector 2. Benani was more than fair there, actually. Gave Girolami quite a lot of space. Been very, very fair racing. But yeah, Girolami's definitely got the pace at the moment, but he can't find a way past the Moroccan driver.
Goes to the outside, has got the run here. Mehdi Benani might squeeze him off, and Girolami's going to have to almost cede the position. They just about get through the final corner, and Mehdi Benani still ahead in 5th place.
Great racing though, very, very fair from both drivers. No contact made at this point. This is some great racing we're seeing here.
Nesta Girolami giving his engineers a few heart-stopping moments there, because they've been talking about making sure he scores points and finishes this race. Now he's caught Mehdi Benani, and well, things are getting a little bit tasty in this battle.
Yeah, more important now that Katzberg won't score in this race. Volvo really need the manufacturer's points from their third car in Girolami. So if he can nick a few off Benani, it'll certainly be very welcome.
And let's not forget the Hondas are first and second. So Volvo leading coming into this weekend, but Honda now in a great position in this main race with a lap to go. Mehdi Benani's just pulled out a bit of a gap. I wonder if Girolami's just trying to find his rhythm again and go again.
Yeah, we're still sort of half expecting fireworks from this little trio of Chilton, Alache and Rob Huff. They've been nose to tail all race, but so far no one's had any big awooga moment in that little battle.
Rob Huff's been very patient behind Alache, who in turn has driven very well. Tom Chilton with a wounded car is ahead of the pair of them, and this is the battle for 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th.
And of course Chilton got some damage very early on, well before he even got to turn 1 in fact, so he's been nursing a bit of damage on that car, and that's why he's bemoaning the handling. So he's done very well really to stay ahead of this group when you factor in the fact that he's really been struggling with that damage.
So we're on the final lap here, and it is Norby Michelis who is leading. 6 career wins to his name in World Touring Cars. He's already got a win to his name last time out in Portugal in the main race. Is he going to double up here in Argentina and make it 7 career wins for the Hungarian?
It's a little bit like cricket, isn't it? You know, you're watching the test match and it's all going well, and then all of a sudden a wicket goes and it's a Honda 1-2.
Exactly.
You know, it's gone from a commanding Volvo win to a Honda 1-2 in one stroke. So it's yeah, no, I don't think anyone expected this at the halfway stage of this race.
And earlier on in the weekend as well, Norby Michelis has been quick, but it looked as though the Volvos could stretch their legs if they needed to. It's not been the case here in Argentina. Norby Michelis has been picture perfect in this main race. He crosses the line for his 2nd win of 2017, his 7th career World Touring Car win, ahead of his teammate Thiago Monteiro, who will leave Argentina as the championship leader. A Honda 1-2, and Ted Bjork across the line to round out the rostrum in the lead Volvo S60. And then behind him it is Esteban Guerri. Guerri getting across the line ahead of Mehdi Benani, Nesta Girolami, Tom Chilton ahead of Erlache, Rob Huff and Tom Coronel rounding out the top 10.
You could see Alessandro Mariani celebrating with the Honda pit wall. These are the kind of results where, in reality, I don't think Honda were the quickest car here this weekend, but they've just come away with a 1-2 finish in the principal race. And this is how you win championships, you know, when you don't have the fastest car and you get the results. So all credit to the Honda team.
Norby Michelis will be really pleased with that. He's barely got the energy to celebrate. Let's not forget this chap has been really unwell, and we've all had food poisoning and a stomach bug. Not many people need to get in a World Touring Car and compete on an international stage and start from the front row and hold off the rest of the field for 13 laps. That's what Norby Michelis has done, and it's an incredible feat from the Hungarian.
I think Montero's had a great weekend as well, really. Been on the back foot all weekend, wasn't that fast in qualifying, made a few errors here and there, didn't have the fastest car, and yet he scored solid points against all of his championship rivals. And that is how you build a championship. When you're having a bad weekend, you're still the guy scoring the big points. And I have to say, I think he'll be very happy with how this weekend's shaken out, and he'll know deep down that he wasn't the quickest guy out there.
It wasn't a weekend where they could really flex their muscles, but if you come away with the points haul he's come away with, and it's that type of consistency that wins championships.
Absolutely, you've got a feel for this guy. It was a very, very commanding drive. He was the quickest guy on the circuit, looked to almost take a certain victory in the 25 points that come along with it, which was hugely needed after a DNF in race 1, but he'll be making the long trip home from South America with nil points.
Norby Michelis with victory in the main race. And let's see how he's feeling now. It's normally when the adrenaline stops that clambers out of the car.
Somebody needs to get some salty water in him pretty quickly.
My lucky charm works, you see, Norby. Congratulations, you are the winner of the main race here in Argentina. Well done.
Thanks a lot. Although I have to say I was maybe a bit lucky now with the puncture of Nicky. I'm not really sure what happened to him. After that, it was all about controlling a pace. But I'm really happy because the car felt great throughout the race. It was possible to push. I had a good start. Unfortunately, it was not enough to get alongside Nicky, but in the end, yeah, winning the race is just amazing.
Your second win in the row. When we spoke to you in Portugal after your win then, you really said that you were now gunning for the championship. So now you must feel that even more.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's, I mean, winning the race, scoring 30 points for the championship is nice. I'm a bit disappointed because of the first race, because having a left front puncture for the third time now this season is a bit unfortunate, and I think it's important points I left on the table there. But in the end, now we think about the race win, and we will celebrate.
Well done.
Thanks.
30 points for win in this main race, 23 for second, 19 for third, just to make your mental maths that much more complicated. There is your race result. Norby Michelis ahead of Thiago Monteiro. Ted Bjork rounding out the podium for Volvo ahead of Argentine star Esteban Guerri.
Breaking 10, 9, 8,
well,
7,
before the podium, we'll head for a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a short moment.